Okay, I have a funny thing. I think I went on another Zoom link and not this particular Zoom link. And so y'all was trying to get on, but I was on another I was on another link. And so that's why y'all couldn't get on. I don't make no sense. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay, with my excitement of I have 2 meetings on Zoom. So with my excitement to log in, I logged into the wrong Zoom, so y'all couldn't get on. I promise you by day 20, I will have all this thing down. But let me go ahead. Yeah, I'll edit later. All right, welcome everyone. We're going to be discussing Rule 3 today, so let's jump right into it since I'm running behind a little bit. Remember, we're covering the 2024 National Federation of High School Rules. This is like what I consider our general overview course. So we're going to be going through Rule 3. We're not going to get through all of it today. Rule 3 is actually a two-part ordeal. But before we get started, it's a little bit of what I want to do is, so this is our, like as far as level 1 certification. And for those that complete all of the requirements, we're going to give you a certificate of training, certification certificate. For me, this is important. We've been working on this for years, and believe it or not, it's getting there. In 2020, it was okay. I still wasn't issuing those certificates back then, but I said all to say this: I want to recognize a couple of people. I want to recognize John Aurora. He actually got a certificate over the weekend in Tampa when he came down for our training. So I want to thank John Aurora. He's not the only one. I'll be amiss if I didn't recognize Mr. Al White. He also went through this course and he dealt with me and put up with all my my craziness. And then Joe Savini, he also completed the course. So I wanted to know something. We just don't give this away, all right? It's not a participation certificate. In other words, you come, you spend the 13 weeks with us, and then boom, we give you a certificate. That's not how this works. If you've been on Google Classroom, you know there are requirements that you have to meet to get those certificates. And so our certification pillars are 3 pillars: education, experience, and evaluation. Each one of these pillars are important and need to be part of any certification process. It's just, you can't have a complete development without the 3. And when we developed PGO Academy, that was in mind. Educational part is what we're doing right now. And what we say, this is about a 13, 20-hour course over a span of 13 to 20 weeks. And that's part of it. And then also you have the written worksheets that you have to do. If you're not getting my emails from Google Classroom, please check your spam. Some of my emails have been going to your spam. So go to your spam, look up program officials or goajfl.com and see if my emails is going to your spam. If it is, tell them it's not spam so you can get those emails. But that's part of it. And then the other part is experience. So you got to have a minimum of 70 hours of experience in order to qualify you for your level 1 certification. So I mean, if you got five years of experience, then you qualify in that department. But in the education department, you need to complete, which is part of the 150 question exam and things of that nature. The part that people don't like, and that's the last part, the evaluation pillar. This is the one where we come out and we actually evaluate you on the field to make sure that your experience and education are lining up and you're in the right place. You're supposed to be doing what you're doing your on-field mechanics. And a lot of people who actually complete the education and experience part, the reason why they haven't got their certification yet is because we haven't had an opportunity to evaluate them yet. And all of those are important. It's not a thing out there we can do in life when it get down to a certification that those 3 pillars are not part of it. Now I know it might be a little overkill for what we do, but I spent a lot of time in this, and when you do get it done, it's a big deal. All right, so I just wanted to bring that out. So let's get to business. Rule 3, periods, time factors, and substitution. So like I said before, we're really just going to be touching the first part of this. We're not going to really get to the timeouts. We have a lot to cover in the first 3 sections. And when we get to part 2, we'll cover the rest. Section 1, length of periods, halftime, and intermission. So we're talking from a high school perspective. I know a lot of you may do only youth, but we always teach at our next highest level, which is high school. So everything we discuss is we're referring to the high school level when it get down to timing and periods. Just keep that in mind. The clock running time for a game shall be 48 minutes for a high school with periods and intermission as indicated in table 3.1. And here it goes. Now, one of the biggest things I love to bring up, because I know a lot of us like to use the word quarters. Unfortunately, it's a nerd thing. The rule book never used the word quarters. Our dividing time, our blocks of playing time is called periods. So it's the end of first period, the end of second period, the end of third period, the end of fourth period. There is no quarters. I know we like to say quarters, but it's actually, they're called periods. And then here we go in a evenly divided section. There's a little table here. See, first period is 12 minutes. Second and third period. Now, when it get down to halftime, and I want to bring this out here, halftime cannot go over 20 minutes. There are some high schools that you will go to that's going to be, they might be doing homecoming, or the band might want to do a big demonstration, whatever the case may be. It don't make a difference what the home team is planning. They cannot go past 20 minutes. Right? The minimum is 10. The max is 20. But even at 20, after the 20 minutes in, there has to be a mandatory 3-minute warm-up. The 3 minutes cannot be included in the 20-minute halftime. So if you want to do, like, let's say you want to do, I just want to do 20 minutes total, you have to put 17 minutes on the clock. Once the 17 minutes expire, then you put the additional 3 minutes, and then I give you a total of 20. But you can't go 20 and then say, okay, we're going to include that in our mandatory warm-up. Now, if a game ends in a tie, let's say we went through our go 48 minutes. The score is tied. The high schools in different states are allowed to come up with their own resolution resolving tiebreakers. Now, in the back of the rule book, it commonly has what we call the Kansas City tiebreaker in the rule book. But when I was doing my research, it was crazy because in Wisconsin, they actually adopted the NCAA overtime procedures. So they actually start on a 25-yard line. The offense is able to get a first down, and the defense are able to recover it and run back to score a touchdown to win the game with 2 points. So now I thought that was very interesting. They also do it in New Jersey as well. Now, this one is actually is different because in New Jersey, they actually put the ball on the 15-yard line. And then if it's still tied, they go to the 10-yard line. And if it's still tied, they go to the 5-yard line. So each state has different overtime requirements. Although they go by federation rules, each state is allowed to adopt their own overtime, the way they want to conduct overtime. So let's talk about point differential, because this is also something that we have to figure out. If we have a lopsided game and a team is scoring, let's say about 35 points, you see on the diagram here, we're allowed to have a running clock. But guess what? Every state get to do something different. In Iowa, it's 35-point spread. The clock runs in the second half, not the first half. But it said the clock will be stopped for following a touchdown. They don't run it. So even if it's a running clock, if they score a touchdown, the clock stops. Obviously, they call it timeout or intermissions or injury. But we're going to stop the clock even after someone scores. And that's just different. And then it says that anytime it goes back below 35 points, we go back to regular timing procedures. So that's Iowa. Wisconsin, again, the game clock shall run at a 40-point spread. So it's not, they wait till it gets to 40 before they even do a mercy rule, like the state of Florida does 35. So again, it's amazing how different states do different things, although they all go by the Federation high school rules. Let's talk about some interruptions in the game. When the weather conditions are construed to be hazardous to life or limb of the participants, the crew of game officials are authorized to delay or suspend the game. But what if there is some disagreement between the game officials? Well, in the case book, it has a great example that during the third period, a thunderstorm moved into the area. The crew of game officials huddled to assess the situation. And there's a disagreement among the crew as to whether the game should be suspended. And the ruling is the referee will make final decision. And if possible, he should involve the game administration from each school before making a final decision, unless there's no time for discussion. Now, in the back of the rule book, it has, again, a guideline for the back of the rule book for handling this type of things. So it's great to look that over. But here we see that it was a period could be shortened or between opposing coaches and referees. So let's say if we're doing 12-minute periods and we want to shorten it to 10 or 5 or 6, that is possible if both coaches agree. But that's between the coaches and the referee. Or the game could be terminated if so fit, and whatever score it is, that will maintain that score. So a really a rule that was changed. Let's say we're in the second period, a thunderstorm comes in, we're gonna take a 30-minute break. And then we come back and we're gonna play the remaining of that 4 minutes. We can literally shorten the halftime. You don't have to, we can shorten it, but we still have to have a 3-minute warm up. So we can go at 10 minutes, but we still have to have a 3 minutes of a warm up, mandatory warm up. You can't never get away from the mandatory warm up. It says if the weather caused a delay during the last 3 minutes of the second period, the opposing coaches of mutual agreement may shorten the halftime intermission below 10 minutes. However, the mandatory 3-minute warm up must take place before the third period begins. So I said, let's do a 5-minute halftime since we waited for 30 minutes for the weather to end. We can do a 5 minutes, but we still got to do a 3-minute mandatory warm up. So that means we will be at 8 minutes at the end of it all. Now let's talk about the mandatory warm up. The mandatory warm up is exactly what it says, mandatory. All teams must be at the field when at the expiration of the halftime, and they all must be there to warm up. If not, it's an unsportsmanlike conduct against the head coach for not having their team on the field. So the one thing I love about the case book, and I tell all officials, listen, a lot of times you can read a rule book, and you can still, even after you read the rule book, you can still come up with a misinterpretation of the rules. And this is a great example of that. In the case book, it talks about that after the halftime, they was on the field, but one team stayed on the bench. They didn't go on the field to like actively warm up. And the game officials went and informed the coach that, hey, you need to get on the field and warm up because the game is about to start. And you have to be on the field warming up. And that makes sense, right? They got, if it's mandatory, they got to do something. However, in the case book, it said that was an error. The rule book contains no definition of what constitutes a warm up. It is simply required that an opportunity to warm up be available. So if a coach want to keep his team on the sideline and talk with them during that 3-minute warm up, it's not a foul. They just have to be on the field or in the team box when the 3 minutes start. They can't walk out of the locker room, but they don't have to do any activity warm up because the rule book doesn't define what a warm up is. All right, section 2, starting a period. At the coin toss or simulated coin toss conducted 3 minutes prior to the scheduled starting time of the field of play, no more than 4 team members in game uniform from each team may be present at the coin toss. Again, no more than 4. So wing officials, before you start escorting your captains, the wing official, umpire, back judge, and referee, there can't be no more than 4 members at the coin toss. You might see 5 want to come out, 6, only 4. And they have to be in game uniform. So they can't be in jeans and want to come out and do the coin toss. Okay? Only one of those team members will be designated spokespersons. That we already know that makes sense. And all other team members in game uniform must remain outside the field of play. I do want to spend a little bit of time on that because we see a lot, and I didn't know that in NCAA in college, they allow their teams to come onto the field. I didn't know that, and so I know a lot of officials get their training from watching college football or watching NFL and think that what they do there, we can do here at the high school level, which that's not furthest from the truth. In our high school games, they can't be on the field. They can't be on the field of play. So they want to grab arms and walk out to the numbers. They can't do that. They have to stay off the field. But when I read that, it also said they could be in the end zone. I'm like, wow. But the field of play is the area within the boundary lines of the goal line. So if we was, oh my gosh, okay, that didn't work out right. My diagram is missing. There's supposed to be a football field here, and it's not there. All right, so let's move on. So if you see right here, all other team members in game uniform must remain outside the field of play. So what you see here with these players on the field to the numbers, that is illegal. They can't be there. And the wing officials, that's your responsibility to make sure they're not on the field. Again, a lot of times these teams do this for intimidation factors, or they might want to show a speed of core or solidarity. That's fine. They can do that in the white. They can't be on the field of play with doing that for a coin toss. Now, the referee in the presence of the field captain shall instruct the visiting captain to give heads or tail choice before the coin toss. I've seen referees, I call it in the air. When I toss it, give the call. No, can't do that. They need to make the choice before the coin toss. Okay. Now I know in some associations they may have it to where they want the umpire to repeat what the visiting captain chose, and that's okay. However, the choice must be made before the coin toss. And there's another diagram to support it. Now let's talk about the winner of the toss. And this is a very important area that I want to spend a little time on. So whoever wins the coin toss, the visiting team or the home team, they get what we call first choice option. In that first choice option, A, they can choose whether this team want to kick or receive. Notice that in section A is kick or receive. That's all one choice. So if you say I receive, that's it. You don't ask the other team if they want to kick. If they say they want to kick, you don't ask the other team if they want to receive. Because kick, obviously, if they're going to kick, the other team is going to receive. And if the other team is going to receive, obviously their opponents are going to kick. So you don't have to ask that particular type of question. The question you need to ask is, which goal do your team want to defend? Okay. So if I say I want to kick, I ask the other team which goal you want to defend. If I say I want to receive, I ask the other team which goal you want to defend. Okay. Now, the winner of the coin toss may defer their first choice option to the second half. All right, and again, we know this, but I want to really bring this out here. So what happens is the other choices. The loser shall have first choice option of the half the winner did not select. So let's have a scenario. I chose my first and I won the coin toss, and I made a boo-boo. I says, I want to kick. Well, That was my first choice option. Now the other team, because they chose A, the other team get to choose B, which I want to defend this goal line. But because the winner of the coin toss chose to kick, the second half, the team who did not win the coin toss get first choice option in the second half. So either team is going to get a first choice option. Either you're going to get your first choice option in the first half or your first choice option in the second half. But there is still a first choice option. Now, this is where we get into the issues and the problems on the field. And I would have to say, when I was a young official, I used to do this, and because hey, I know the rules. So they come out for the coin toss. The visitor team win the coin toss, and I'd be like, "You want to kick? You want to receive? Or you want to defer?" And these young men or women sometimes, they know that the coach said they want to receive the ball in the second half. So they'll say, "Oh, we want to kick." And we'll be like, "Aha, I gotcha. You want to kick." And then the other visiting the team that they knew what happened. They'd be like, oh yeah, we want to receive. And then we explain to the coaches, and then we go, "Hey coach, guess what? You kick in both halves." And the coach is like, "What? Yeah, they chose to kick. They didn't choose to defer." And so we already started some headaches with the team before we even get started, because we allow that type of thing to happen. So I quickly learned that there's nothing wrong with preventive officiating, and we have to meet with coaches prior to the game starting. Rule 115, it says, prior to the game, the referee shall meet with head coaches and captains. There's nothing wrong when you meet with the head coaches to say, "Hey coach, if you win the coin toss, what will you do? What do you want to do? You want to defer or you want to receive?" And if they choose, they elect to receive, what goal do you want to defend? This literally aids and prevent a lot of issues that is going to come in the future. So guess what? I already know what the coach wants when I get to the coin toss. So if the visiting team coach said they want to defer, and we flip the coin and the visiting team won the coin toss, you want to defer, right? Yes. Awesome. And then I said, "You want to defend that goal, right? Or you might change your mind, defend the other goal." Yes. Awesome. So now we just took out all of that craziness that can happen during a coin toss, that is already starting a headache and a heartache for us and for the teams, and we just don't want it. There's no reason. We're going to have enough headaches from calls and no calls when the game starts. We don't need to aggravate it by being, having any gotcha moments, especially at the coin toss. It should be a smooth coin toss. We should know what the coach wants prior to them coming on the field, so that we're alleviating that issue. So again, preventive officiating facilitates a smooth conduct of a game within the rules. This is in the game officials manual. Preventive officiating is actions by officials that prevent problems by talking to players and coaches. And that's exactly what we're doing here. We're talking to the coach, and we're using preventive officiating skills, which the mechanics manual said we should be using to conduct a smooth game. And rather than allowing a team to choose kick unless they really want to choose kick. Sometimes I don't even bring that option up. You want to defer, you want to receive. That's it. Just leave it out. So this is another question. You know, something about I just put this in here as a as an understanding. So when I go to coin toss, I know some associations they want the referee to the bikes to the clock, and some associations they want their referee facing the clock. Well, this comes from the new mechanics manual, and if you look where the referee's at, if you look down there with the arrow where the press box at and the scoreboard is at, the scoreboard, the referee is actually facing the scoreboard. So, you know, if you were facing the scoreboard on the coin toss referees, that's how now it don't make. I mean, it's so the mechanics manual say if your association say anything different, go by your association. But the mechanics manual on this diagram show that a referee should be facing the scoreboard. All right, section 3, ending a period or half. So let's have some fun with this. Between the first and second, and between the third and fourth period, the team shall change goals, team possession, number of the next down, and relatively position of the ball, and the line of game remains unchanged. Very simple. We do that. However, notice where the officials are at. We should be getting together at the end of a period, not rushing, because I've seen so many errors where the chains are not put in the right spot. The ball is not put in the right spot because we rushing through it, trying to rush through the game and not going on our play cards and noting everything. Where the ball, what yard line the ball is on. That we on the far hash, right hash, center of the field, where the chains are at. Where's the clip? And all of that should be done before you move. You're supposed to get with your officials, make sure we have it all written down, make sure everybody knows what's going on before you move. At the end of each period, the referee shall hold the ball in one hand overhead to indicate the periods have officially ended. So there you go. That's what the referee does. Let's get into this. So before we're going to talk about when do we extend periods and when we don't extend periods. But what we're going to talk about beginning is we're going to talk about what doesn't extend a period, and then we'll end talking about what does extend a period. So basically what we mean by that obviously is that the period ended with the 0-0 and there was an issue. And when there's an issue, we have to take care of that before we move on to the next period. So if there's a foul or something, it has to be dealt with, it has to be addressed, and sometimes we have to extend the period. But there are certain situations where we don't extend the period. When a defense fouls during a successful try or field goal, and the offended team accepts the result of the play with enforcement of the penalty from the succeeding spot. So referees, and we're going to talk about succeeding spots when we get to Rule 10, which is like the end of the course. But we got to understand what it means by succeeding spot. And because everything for the next couple of these that we're going to go over is always, they all have succeeding spot enforcement. So succeeding spot enforcement is, think about it like this. If there was no foul, if nothing happened, where would we have snapped the ball from? That's the succeeding spot. Okay. If there wasn't a foul, if we didn't throw a flag, what would be the next course of action? Where would the ball been snapped from next? That's what we call the succeeding spot. Now, These are the 5 things that where a foul by either team and the penalty is accepted for unsportsmanlike conduct foul, we don't extend the period for that. For non-player foul, we do not extend the period for that. Fouls that specify a loss of down, fouls that are enforced on a subsequent kickoff, as in Rule 8, 2, 3, 4, and 5, or fouls for enforcement by result in a safety. Okay. Now the thing of once we get to Rule 10, and if your referee should know this already, unsportsmanlike conduct fouls, non-player fouls, those fouls are always marked. The enforcement spot is always the succeeding spot. So when you have to enforce an unsportsmanlike conduct foul or a non-player foul, you enforce it as though the foul did not happen. So, for example, let's say, and this is where a lot of confusion with coaches get into the issue, where it's 4th down and we threw an unsportsmanlike conduct foul. I don't care if it's while the ball was still alive or after the ball is dead. Once 4th down ends and the team did not get the line to gain, it's a change of possession. The ball goes to the other team now. However, the team that was offended think because it was an unsportsmanlike conduct foul, we're going to mark off 15 yards and they get to keep the ball because the yard is going to give them a 1st down. If it was 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, yes, because they still have possession of the ball. But on 4th down, if they did not gain the line to gain, although we flag the defense with an unsportsmanlike conduct foul, it's still going to be their ball, and then we're going to mark out the 15-yard penalty on them while they have possession of the ball, because that's the succeeding spot. If it wasn't a foul, they would have got the ball, so they still get the ball, but they're still going to get the penalty. The fouls that are enforced on the subsequent kickoff, when we get to Rule 8, we'll cover that more, but they're just saying that if there was a foul and the team and the period ended and we have to enforce it, we're going to enforce, if it got to be enforced on the kickoff, we're not going to extend the period to enforce it. And then whatever by safety. And if there's a dead ball foul that occurs after time expires for any period, the penalty should be measured from the succeeding spot. Again, we're not going to extend a period for that. I think I have some examples on here. Unsportsmanlike conduct foul. Here, going an example out of the case book. I like this one, and let's dive into it. A1 breaks free on B's 20-yard line and is near the goal line on a run which will score the go-ahead touchdown. Just before entering the end zone, I'm sorry, I missed that part. Just before entering the end zone, A1 turns and taunts B1. Very classic. We see it a lot. We definitely see it in college. A lot of less of it now, but A1 turns and taunts B1. Time in the 4th period expires during the run. So they scored a touchdown. The clock hit 0-0 in the 4th period. Now, this go-ahead touchdown could give A the game. Like, this could have been a winning touchdown. This is why we should be very careful what we watch on TV, because we watch college football and we think we watch college football and we think we need to enforce it like we see it in college. But this is what the rule book says, a case book about this. The touchdown is scored, and the unsportsmanlike conduct foul by A1 cannot be penalized. While such situations do not occur frequently, it must be recognized that at some point, penalty enforcement is ended. Now, if the try is required for playoff qualifications, then we will enforce the penalty. But we know that if somebody's scoring in the fourth period and there's no playoff qualifications that need to be done for the try, we don't do a try. So although we threw a flag for unsportsmanlike conduct for A1 ton and B1, that touchdown cannot be taken off. And I want you to think of it like this at the high school level. Unsportsmanlike conduct fouls are non-contact fouls. In other words, there was no physical contact that gave an advantage for the team from scoring. So just because that a coach came on the field and cursed me out, the offensive coach came on the field and cursed me out as they scored a touchdown, that did not give that team a physical advantage to score that touchdown. So because it did not give them a physical advantage, they get to keep whatever they gain. If we had more time on the clock, we're going to enforce it from the end of the run, from the succeeding spot. But if they score a touchdown and they commit an unsportsmanlike conduct foul either prior or after, it does not negate a touchdown. Now, let's say it was a blindside block. Yeah, that was physical contact that could have gave the runner an advantage to score a touchdown, and we're going to take back that touchdown. But for unsportsmanlike conduct, for now, at the federation rule level, it does not change anything that happens on the field. We're going to penalize it if we can. In this instance, we couldn't, but it does not negate whatever happens on the field. And I've seen officials time and time again calling back touchdowns for unsportsmanlike conduct because they see it in college. And that does not apply at our level. All right. So we also see that a loss of down provision does not extend a period. So in this case play, time expires for the second period as A11 runs the ball beyond the line of game. A1 then throws the forward pass to A11, who scores a touchdown. Obviously that's an illegal forward pass. So team B will likely accept the penalty that would negate the touchdown. The period would not be extended as A1 foul contain a loss of down provision. So we don't extend periods. We don't give offense an advantage by letting them extend the period for on time down, even though it was a foul on them and it was accepted. So if you don't know what a loss of downs fouls are, that we don't replay a down. Illegal handling the ball forward. That means after you cross the line of scrimmage, you hand the ball forward to someone. Illegal forward pass, illegal touching of a forward pass by an ineligible receiver. Not ineligible being downfield, but ineligible actually touching the ball is a loss of down provision. Let's talk about now what will extend a period. A period shall be extended by on-time down if one of the following occur during a down in which time expires. There was a foul by either team and the penalty is accepted. If you look right here, a couple of examples. There was A1 commits a live ball foul, time ran out, but the foul was accepted. So we're going to have an on-time down. We're going to extend the period. We're not going to go to second period or third period. We're going to replay it down. We're going to let the on-time down because the foul was accepted. It wasn't unsportsmanlike conduct. It wasn't a non-player foul. So we do extend the period. The same thing if defense fouls and is accepted, and if it's going to be a replay down, then we're going to extend the period. We're going to extend the period for an inadvertent whistle. All right, doing it down when time expires. A1 gains 10 yards and fumbles. The covering official inadvertently sounds his whistle while the ball is loose. Now, when we get to Rule 4, we're going to talk more about inadvertent whistles and how to prevent that. So obviously, inadvertent whistles are bad. It can really change the outcome of a game. So we got to be careful. Could you imagine in this game right here, B is winning, and there was a fumble. And the official blew the whistle too early, and B recovered the ball, but because there was an inadvertent whistle, the ball was dead. So now A get another opportunity, and they may score. That's going to be tough because we blew the whistle so early. Yeah, and it'll be a hard pill to swallow for the losing team. The period shall be extended for an on-time down, and A may put the ball in play where it lost possession of, or it may choose to replay it down from the previous spot. Coach going to be upset. You got to understand. That's why it's so important that we just don't blow the whistle. Like I said, we'll talk more about it when we get to Rule 4. All right. If a touchdown was scored, the try is attempted unless the score is during the last down of the fourth, and the points will not affect the outcome. So if, again, fourth period, someone scores, that's it, we go home. If it affects the playoff, then we'll do the extra point. But we don't extend the period if the time expires, if that happened. And the last part of this, if any of that happens, A, B, C, or D happen again doing an untimed down, we do it again. It's like Groundhog Day. We just keep repeating it until we're not in this situation again. One thing I want to bring out, though, because this is very important, it says if and this is in Rule 332, if time for any period expires during a down, where the clock indicates 000, play shall continue until the down ends. Now, let's go back and read that. A period shall be extended by untimed down if one of the following occurred during a down in which time expires. Very important. Why? So look at this situation. Near the end of the third period, it is 3rd and 4th for A from B's 48-yard line. In advance to B's 45, during the run, there was holding by B1. The penalty is accepted, and at the end of the down, there are 3 seconds remaining in the period. Because the penalty was only reason why we stopped the clock, when the referee gives the ready for play signal, he's going to wind the clock. And when he did that, the period ended before A snapped the ball. Now, I know a lot of people, you hear a lot where you can't end the game on a defensive foul. Not true. You can't end the game on a defensive foul. You can end the game on an offensive foul. Being on defense is not relevant to if the game is going to be extended or not. It's what's on the clock. So if there's a foul and I look up at the clock and I have 3 seconds on the clock, if we administer the foul and the clock starts before they snap the ball and the clock runs out, we don't continue to let them run that play. That down is over. So A is not entitled to an untimed down as the time did not expire during the down. There was still time on the clock. So they don't get to run a play once the clock runs out. Well, what if it's fourth period? What if it's fourth period and this happens? I'm glad you asked. With the ball at B's 1-yard line and 12 seconds remaining in the game, we're in the fourth period. A1 advanced to the half-yard line. After the ball is dead, B1 commits a foul. The clock is stopped with 5 seconds remaining on the clock. We looked up, there's 5 seconds on the clock. A has the option to start the game clock on the snap, but they choose to start the game clock on the ready for play signal. The game clock is restarted when the ball is marked ready for play, and before A can snap the ball, time expires. What happens? The game is ended. There is no extension of the period or an on-time down. Unless there is an acceptance of a penalty for a foul that occurs during the down in which time expires. Now let's talk about this a little bit. As a referee, because now the rule changed a couple of years ago where in the last 2 minutes of the game, the offended team can choose if they want the clock to start on the snap, if the clock supposed to naturally run. So in this case, because the only reason why the clock was stopped because of the foul, the clock is supposed to start. But in the last 2 minutes of the second and fourth period, the team get to choose to have the clock start on the snap. The referee should have expressed to that head coach that, do you really want me to start this clock on the ready for play? Because if I do and it runs out, you're not going to be able to run this play. Although there was a foul by defense, but there was still time on the clock. It's not 0-0-0. And the coach may be thinking that, hey, a game can't end on a defensive foul. So even if the clock runs out, we're entitled to run this play. And you are not. So it's very important as a referee that you express to the coach when you see that, hey, because they're on the half-yard line. They're losing by 5. I'm making this up now, right? And the clock runs out. We're blowing the whistle. We're throwing the ball up. And they are hot with us right now. Because we ended the game on a defensive foul. Well, the rule doesn't say that. All right? So it's very important. Okay, almost over. At the end of each period, the referee shall hold it. And we already read that part, but after delaying momentarily to ensure. So before the referee holds his hand up and say in a period, and this is very important, you have to make sure there's no fouls occurred. Is there any foul? Are there any timing errors that we got to be concerned with? Any request for a coach-referee conference? Are there any other irregularities that we need to be concerned with? This is important. And we're going to go over a couple more case plays before I let you go, and you're going to find out why. Let's take a timing error, for example. During the second period of the series, the game clock goes directly from 1:45 to 45 seconds. That means we lost a minute somewhere and is not detected. Following the third down, time expires for either the first or second period. Before or after the referee has indicated the penalty has officially ended and the error is discovered. So they discovered it before the referee held his hand up, said the period is over, or it was discovered after the referee said the period is over. Guess what? In A, the timing error is correctable because it was discovered prior to the second live ball and before the period officially has ended. However, in B, the timing error cannot be corrected whether it is the first or second period, because once the referee indicates that the period is over, we can't correct any timing errors. The coach is going to say you're cheating. You're taking it away from the kids. Again, let me have a disclaimer. Not saying that you can't do it if you want, okay? But by rule, we're not supposed to. I'm going to put that out there, okay? By rule, we're not supposed to. Let's look at it down. Second down and 6 on the last play of the third period. 8:38 gains 3 yards. And after the play, the down marker indicates it's flipped to 4th down. Head linesmen. And we had this discussion over the weekend at our training. Don't allow your box guy to be able to change the down indiscriminately without your instructions. Now, it should have been corrected. It should have been caught when y'all got together and said what down it is, blah, blah, blah. I still got third down. It should be second down or wherever the case may be. It should be third down because it's second and 6, and after the play, it should be third down. But y'all didn't pay attention. Y'all saw the box. Y'all went with it. And following a brief pause to ensure there was no reason like the referee did what he's supposed to do. He looked around. Anybody got anything they want to say? No, we raised a hand. We've changed the size, we've changed the downs. And before the ball is snapped for the first play of the fourth period, Team H coach notified the game officials, hey, I believe there's an error in the down because it should be third down, not fourth. Because we ran this play and then we did that. We only ran 2 plays. You got fourth down on here. Guess what, guys? The third period had officially ended when the referee held the ball over his head, and therefore the down error may not be corrected. Right? That's crazy. Not saying you can't do it, but by rule, we're not supposed to do it. This is why it's so important, referees, because that should have been caught. Because why wasn't it caught? We have down indicators on. We should be saying, wait, it's not fourth down, it's third down. But we're rushing. We didn't get together. We didn't write nothing down. We just flipped sides, and we saw fourth in the box. So we thought, oh yeah, I must have made a mistake. We put fourth on our fingers. And then we realized after we done did everything that it's actually third down, not fourth. And now the coach is letting us know and trying to explain to us. And then we're going to just be a butthole. Hey, coach, we can't fix it now because by rule, they're going to be mad and upset. They'll reach out to me and I'll be like, yeah, unfortunately, that is the rule. And they're going to be like, I don't want to see that referee at our field no more. You know how it goes. But all of this can be corrected if we slow down, if the head linesman control his box and stuff like that, okay? Now, I want to end it with this because it's like flipping the script. A trails by 3 points in the fourth period with the ball on B's 20, 4th and 10, and 2 seconds on the game clock. A1 throws an incomplete pass into B's end zone with time expired. The referee quickly glances at each sideline and then begins to leave the field. After the referee had crossed the sideline, the referee hears the line judge blowing his whistle. The line judge explains that B1 committed pass interference during the down, in which time expired. The game is not officially over, even though the referee left the field. Since the foul had been called, the referee will give A chance to accept the penalty and extend the period for 1 untimed down from B's 10-yard line. Just want to put that in there because I can see it now. Game over. I threw my hand up. The rule book, the case book actually kind of like saying, well, you know, the foul did happen. Let's take care of it. So guess what? That is it. Let me put y'all on here. Y'all can unmute yourself. Give me 1 second. Let me find you. Give me 1 second. There we go. All right, you can unmute yourself. Hello? What's up? What's up?
Hey.
Hey.
Hello.
Okay, I hear you. I hear you. Any questions?
Andre, just one thing that I maybe wanted to bring up. I don't know when you meet with the presidents or whatever meeting that you have, but the situation with the inadvertent whistle is something that I think could be probably avoided. Most of these coaches, I think just so they understand that the reason why we don't blow the whistle right away, you know, a lot of times these coaches think the whistle should be blown. Blow the whistle, the play's dead, blow the whistle. That's probably maybe that could explain. They understand why we don't blow the whistle, because we want to avoid that situations like you discussed a little earlier with the inadvertent whistle, where we have with a loose ball and then A gets a chance to. That's, to me, that's like the communication. We can explain to them. That's why we don't blow the whistle right away. Some of these coaches don't always understand that, and I think that's something that maybe when you do have the meeting, the presidents,
Right.
or whatever you usually do there.
Right. And the reason
That's why we don't blow the whistle. That's why we don't blow
and
the
the
whistle.
reason why we don't
Sure.
and the reason why we don't blow the whistle is if you don't see the ball, if the plays go down, I don't care if the ball is on your side. I don't care if you see the ball, but if the player back falls to you where it blocks you between the ball, you could be 100% right that he's down. But if you don't see that ball, you do not blow that whistle. You'll still square off, and you will come in, but without a whistle. Because now I've done it. I'm not going to say I never had an inverted whistle. But as he was going down, the ball came out. The umpire see the ball loose. The referee see the balls loose. Even the other official on the other side see the ball loose. But because you were the covering official, and he's falling to the ground, you blow your whistle, then the play's over when it's not over. Because he fumbled the ball and the ball is laying next to him. So the best thing to do is what? If you don't see the ball, don't blow the whistle. There's nothing wrong with having a few downs during the game end with no whistle. You can have a down end with no whistle. You throw your hand up, get the ball, put it. We do it as like I told the officials at the training this weekend when we talked about whistles. A whistle is like a gunshot, right? If you hear the whistle, it's too late. You already been. If you hear the gunshot, it's too late. You already been shot. If you hear the lightning, it's too late. You already been struck. The whistle is nothing but a byproduct of what already expired. So if the down is over, and then something happened, and we blow the whistle, they're not. Oh well, we didn't hear a whistle. But that's not the issue. You still shouldn't have did what you've done. So it's very important that don't, and like I said, we're going to talk about it when we get to Rule 4. Don't keep the whistle in your mouth during a play. I see many officials, they see something, and they want to throw their flag, and they're blowing the whistle and throwing the flag because they're running with the whistle in their mouth. It's okay to keep your whistle in your mouth before the snap.
Yeah.
But once the ball is snapped, you drop it, and you go. And then you put it back in your mouth when you're supposed to. And that's pretty much it. Any other question? All right, so if anybody have any problems on Google Classroom, are y'all receiving my, if you are registered on Google Classroom, are y'all receiving my emails?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I know I talked to some and they were saying that they wasn't getting my emails because it was going to their spam account. So I want to make sure. All right. Did anyone learn something they did not know in today's class session? All right, come on. I need the feedback because y'all don't know this, but sometimes I be at this desk for 6 hours putting stuff together. I know I shouldn't confess that, but you know, finding the right pictures, all that stuff that's come out of the case book, I have to type it in here on the PowerPoint, and I'm like, sometimes it's with some long paragraphs. I gotta hold my book and do like this. Yeah, but sometimes I lose track of time. Sometimes I get on this computer getting ready for a class, and I realize I started this morning. Now it's midnight, and it's like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? But you know, I love it, and I hope what we're doing here is going to add to each one of y'all development as a game official. So, did anybody able to get on Nearpod? Anybody download the app Nearpod yet?
I got it. I got you.
Okay. Let me see if I can show you right quick. Give me a second. Give me a second, because I'm I have to move things around. Okay. Let me close that out. Let me open that up. Give me 1 second. Okay, let me go back to you guys. Let's see if I can get this up. Nope, hold on. Okay. Y'all see this?
Well,
Y'all see it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. All right, and boom. Hey guys. All right. So what I do, and these are old classes. I always got to be redone. But if you miss a class, and again, if you go to Google Classroom, it's on there. If you download the app Nearpod, what I do with this class is I edit it, I upload it. Like this would be like what we're doing right now. I'm still being recorded. That'll be taken out. Matter of fact, let me just you're gonna work for me. It didn't work for me last time either. I don't know what's going on with this thing. It don't love me. All right. So what it is I edit it, upload it on here, and I break them up in sections. So it's not like a whole hour class. So what you can do if you go on Nearpod and you'll get the code, you can literally go through the lesson and you see all these segments. This is me breaking the class up in different parts. I don't know why it's not working for me. I can't edit because if I do that, it'll mess up my code. So download Nearpod on Apple or Google, whatever. I don't have an Android no more, so I forgot what it's called now. But download the app so that way you can go back, and at the end of it, you got a couple of PDFs here. One is the worksheet, and one is the PowerPoint in a PDF format. So you can go back and look it over, or you can download it if you want. All right. So that's what I have for you guys. That's what I've done. So any questions again before I let you go? Everybody's good?
Mhm.
Yes, sir.
All right. So stay tuned for the closing video.